welcome back to the Shopcast, episode 7. Today we're gonna do something a little different. Here with my co-host Sevilla, and we're just gonna do a one-on-one today because I figure we've been having a lot of conversations talking with someone else, but no one's really gotten to know you in depth on one of these. So we're just going to talk about what it's like being a working artist, since we're both kind of in a very similar boat right now. Yeah. We've been working a lot together. We can talk about your art show and the whole, what we did to make that happen.
Yeah.
And just kind of talk about, I want it to be like really open, personal, because I know we have a lot of artists listening in on this, and I'm hoping that we can just share our experience, because I think no one really has advice in this realm. Like being an artist, like everything, it's really a personal journey, but all we can do is share our experiences with each other, and hopefully, that how we approach things will help.
Yeah.
Someone else.
Yes. So stay tuned, because it's going to be an interesting episode.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Me and her talk all the time, so
yeah.
We may go on some tangents here, but hopefully you all get something out of it.
Little side adventures is good.
Yeah.
It's good.
So let's just start right away with your art show. So in the Animal Kingdom, if you all didn't get to check it out, it was amazing.
Y'all missed out.
Totally missed out. It was awesome. But let's talk about that whole experience for you, because I know that was a big deal for you.
Yeah. I feel like I'm still processing bits of it, There's times that I remember things and I'm like, oh, wait, that happened. And it was such a, I don't want to say fog, but that was zeroed in, just this is what's happening. But yeah, I now am a painter.
Yeah, you are.
And that's the biggest takeaway from this whole thing, I feel. Then now I'm I did everything else. At the end of the day, it was awesome. It was an awesome show. Awesome experience. From I don't know, it's just an adventure. It was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the whole process, because depending on how people approach their art, most artists are going to look for a venue to kind of handle putting their show up, have the lighting all set up, and we didn't really have that. Thankfully, we have the shop to be able to do things out of, but you had to do everything.
Yeah,
we had to do everything.
We had
ourselves.
To do everything. Well, yeah, and I think that was the first. Organizing thoughts.
Yeah,
I was first the venue. The shop was really, really wonderful and letting me borrow the space, But yeah, we did have to do everything. If you guys have been down to the shop, you know that in the back is a warfare. There's just.
It's a working shop.
Yeah, it's a working shop. With real artists working in the back every day. It never looks the same every day. So. I got a lot of people coming back being like, whoa, this is the same space. Yeah, we did all of that. Well, you and Avelino kind of did pave the way, honestly. Yeah. These guys did their first show back in April.
Yeah.
And you guys kind of figure out the setup. I don't know how I would have approached it if they would have been like, yeah, here's the space, go for it.
But even so, we had the walls where they can be installed and put up. But after that, we luckily found a bunch of vines upstairs, which thank you, Sterling, for letting us kind of raid your area there. But we had to get the vine works, which were from the Heart show that we did
in February
last year. And
no, this year?
I don't even know.
This year? The year's not over.
Year. That was 2020.
Was it?
I believe so.
No. No, it was this year. No, because we were born in September of 2020. It couldn't have been in February of 2020.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Time's warped.
I know. I mean, when you're into it, it's
that
like
was only this year?
Yeah, it was
Crazy.
only this year.
Well, yeah, that was what we used that for, and then they were just kind of hanging out upstairs, so.
Dude, that was... So, when my teammates are wonderful, and they kept asking me what I needed as far as, like, help, and I didn't know because all I needed to finish painting still, but when you kept asking about what everything was gonna look like, I was like, dude, I just need white walls. I could care less about how everything else looks at this point. I just wanted to be clean because it's a mess back there. But wait, when you came up with those vines, I was like, wow. And then more and more and more, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this could work. Because at first I was like, I don't know, with a few here and there. And I walked in here today and I was like, well, if everything would have come down to it, we could just taken these.
Yeah.
But no.
That's true.
Yeah, because remember at the end we're like, and we ran out of them. But it's fine. Dude, you saved my life with that. Like, with that and that video. This guy put on a video for my show. Like, dude, forever grateful for all the help from everyone. It literally takes, I've always said it, I always get by with a little help from my friends. Yeah. I've always, that's how I've gotten by in life. And I think this show really showed that in a way. Like, the shop really came together. Like, Pat, T, Chunky, like, you guys all came to just help me out. Yeah, none of y'all have to, you know. Like,
even Avellino painted the big wall.
Yeah, even Avellino was here. Before. Yeah, like, and everyone who came out to support too. Yeah. So,
you were working right up until 20 minutes before the opening reception. Like, me and her were here setting up all the lights, getting it all together, and it was 4:40, and good thing Jess showed up and told us, like, hey, it's 4:40. Otherwise we would have been working right up until 5 and not even realized it.
Yeah.
And you had paint all over you from those walls. Talk about, that was a learning lesson, huh? Get good paint when you're painting your walls. Yeah,
that's one thing. Like, cutting corners, it ain't worth it. It ain't worth it. Like, we're in our 30s. We don't have time for this. Our bodies are not made for this. Getting paint, you go for the good stuff. Go for the stuff that one coat and you're good, because it's thicker, you know. I made the mistake of, I'm just retouching these white walls from last year. No, there's like 60 shades of white, and I got a different shade and very, very thin. So I had to do like 4 coats, and that was not fun. That was not fun. But yeah, I was entirely covering that. Jess saved the show. You had people coming in at 5. Yeah.
But went home, took a shower, and got it.
Yeah, I got here like at 5. It was like 5:15, I think, or something.
It's good to be fashionably late to your own show.
Yeah. You know, and then, and the first batch of people that came through were, like, my ladies and my buddy, Stephen White. And they came in here and told me all the good and the wrongs of the setup. Yeah. And then they got it over with, you know. They were like, okay, now you know, for next time, enjoy your show. And I'm like, wow, thank you, guys. No, but for real, like, you know, they were here early. Not early, but they were here on time. Because, you know. But... yeah.
I could see you transporting back to that.
Yeah.
That time.
I'm like, whew. Remembering all the things all over again. I'm like, whew. Yeah. I feel like. Yeah, it's gonna take a minute.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Talk about the painting. Like, I know you learned a lot about yourself through those paintings. Like, 'cause, I mean, it's all animals. If you haven't seen the show, or, she's been posting on her Instagram a lot of the works, and you know, it's definitely distinct style, distinct. Everything is in cohesion, which is really cool because there's a lot of pieces to do for for a show. Talk about that process and what you learn about yourself as a painter in it.
I learned that I'm a painter. That's what I learned, I think, mostly. It was it's just a journey, honestly. Like, I don't know if you remember the first time you realized you could do something in terms of, like, artistically. The series was born out of, I couldn't sculpt anymore at the time. I was injured. So it was a way to not lose my mind in a way. Yeah. But then the flamingo is born, and then you're like, whoa. I put it on the wall at my house at the time. Sorry, Joey. And people kept coming into the house and asking about who did that. And I was like, okay. I wanted to paint a picture of Chip, and I didn't want to mess it up. So I was like, I set myself to try to learn as much as I could in terms of, I don't know. I think the thing that I learned the most was to learn to see, It's the thing that I kept coming back to.
It must be interesting going from 3D to 2D. Like, it's just a completely different approach, I feel like.
100%. Like, 3D is easier for me. So easy. In the sense that, like, it's tangible. Like, we live in 3D world, so why, it's just easier. But 2D, it's...
That's crazy. You being a sculptor, it makes sense. Like, yeah, obviously, like 3D, you could feel and everything. But coming from a painting background, like, to make that jump to 3D, to me, is the opposite. Because now it's adding a whole different, new dimension to what I'm used to, is just creating that dimension with paint. But to actually form it out and do that, like, to me, is daunting, and it's different. But it's just because, that's where you grew.
Right.
You grew in rather than me. But it's just interesting to hear that because, yeah, you're right. Like, we do live in a
3D world. It's easy. Yeah, that's what I tell people. Or not people, but it takes space. But it's harder to create something like this illusion. It's an illusion, in a way. Like, you manipulate color and shape and to create an illusion, and that's magic right there. Like this, like sculpture is very much, it's also magical in the sense that you bring something forward, physical, tangible, out of nothing. But this illusion is just, I don't know. It's maybe it's a different side of my brain. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I should look into that.
That is a really interesting perspective. Like, I always call it an illusion because just my painting style in general, like, a lot of it is I'm just doing simple techniques that, when put together in the right way, they make a cool illusion. But, yeah, if you sat down with me and went step by step through my process, you'd just be like, oh, that's all really just simple stuff, But it's all the parts of the whole coming together, and then you realize, oh, this is it really is an illusion. When you think about it, you're just making something look 3D or whatever it is. Like, you're creating something on a flat surface that used to just be white. But, with sculpture, to me, what's so fascinating is, like, you're literally changing forms of, like, solids. Like, whether you're working with metal, ceramic, I don't know how many things you've worked with, but there's just, like, to form that, like, you can't just easily form metal. Like, you obviously have to go through a crazy process.
Right.
It's not as easy as, like, just moving it, manipulating it, and then boom, you're done. Like, you have to make molds. You gotta go through a million different things.
And then there's, like, wood carving, for example.
Fuck that. I love it, but it's hard.
It's that is the true. That's like the true sculpture. Like, people who sculpt with clay or anything that's malleable, like wax. Like I sculpt a lot with wax.
Mm-hmm.
That's more like a modeler. That's not like sculpture is literally like taking pieces, or like the reductive method, because there's the reductive method, which is you're chiseling away, whether it's like marble or wood. Like that is the true sculpture. That's where
Okay.
Yeah.
And what you had experience doing was just molds?
Yeah. So more like
Or you've done both?
Both.
Okay.
I've done both. Yeah. Especially in the bronze situation, because any type of material can be, in any type of sculpture can be turned into bronze. Anything could be made out of bronze. This mic could be made out of bronze.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just like a different process. But when it comes to like the sculpture thing, but back to the painting, we're done with sculpture. No, I'm kidding. I'm actually super excited.
We're gonna talk about it.
No, I'm super excited. Abelino and I are working on something.
Yeah.
So he really wants to collab doing like a painting sculpture type thing. So
you're getting to dip your toes back in a little bit.
A little bit. And right now, because I'm so like, I mean, actually I have an appointment with a neurologist tomorrow, so we'll see how my hands are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm kind of saving my time there. But the biggest thing with painting was learning to like really see. I think like because these illusions, they're in my head. When I see them, they break down almost, so learning to really like see it and see it and see it and see it a little bit more. And I don't know, maybe that's just because I'm a crazy person who likes detail. And that's why I had to like pay so much attention, but that's
why your name's C now. She sees.
I see, you guys. I'm embodying this new identity. Mostly with sculpture, it comes like when I do things, it comes out of here. But I was doing portraits, Jacob from the last podcast was really like, we were talking about like abstract work, and I'm like, I'm not ready for that. I'm just not ready for that.
Abstract's a whole different thing.
I'm just not ready for that. I'm learning to see.
Now everything you see, throw it all away. and let's just talk emotion.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, I did mention that because he was like, what's next for you? And I was like, well, I do want to bring the same emotion from my drama from my sculptures to painting. And I keep saying that, but it's really hard actually to like do that. So abstraction, that's no, I'm not ready for that. We'll see.
Well, for me, it's really hard to plan out. That's why, like, art shows to me are kind of daunting, because, like, to plan out a series, to just have, like, a plan going into a painting, for me, isn't always my best approach. Like, a lot of my paintings come from exactly what you're talking about. It's, like, just that feeling, that emotion. What is it that moves me while I'm going through this painting, like, take, for example, the last one I did was the Medusa. I had that idea for years, and it may have been a collab idea because I've talked with many artists, and I know one of my artists that I've worked with before, we had a lot of talks where we shared ideas, and who knows, it could have came from one of those conversations. I feel like it probably did, but it was just an idea. Ruminating for years and years and years, and it always just kept coming back to my head, and I would like not do anything with it because I was just like, well, it's dark, and I don't typically like to paint too dark of things, even though if you look at my Instagram, everything's dark right now. But
I'm like, you seen those woodcuts?
I know. I do have a dark streak, but it's more around Halloween time, just to.
It only comes out on Halloween.
Yeah. But most of my work, I tend to, try and have some hope and something put into it. But lately it's been more dark themes, and it's not like I'm in a dark mood or anything. It's just that's what's moving me at this moment. And then, that Medusa piece I finally went to tackle, and
just awesome piece.
You seen how long it took me to do, you know. I think we had the conversation where you're like, how long is it going to take you? And I was like, probably months. And it did.
I was surprised, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
because, I mean, you guys are usually so. But it's also interesting to see that you do have that also, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not that you don't, but, I mean, we just met, like,
Yeah.
a year, you know? So from what most of the work that I've seen has been work that you just, for, like, murals, tattoos, you know? Like, all these things that are catered. This is, like, a piece that you just...
Mm-hmm.
And the pieces from before, like, the other pieces that I seen from you do, like, work on, were for a show.
Mm-hmm.
So you were, like, on it. There was a concept. There was all this into it. But this one is, I mean, it seems random, but it makes sense. It's coming from this other place that it's been at. And you were saying about the why you don't do the series thing. I think that's also very... For me, the whole series things has been... That idea always comes from education.
Mm.
Like, since I was in high school, my art teacher will always be like, you can't just be doing random things. You have to focus on something. And then I'd be like, can randomness be the thing I focus on? And she was like, if you want to, like, if you want to get serious, and you're going to have to show a body of work. Throughout college, that's all everyone tells you to do. Have a cohesive, and it's so hard, which is another reason why I think I work in so many mediums, because I want to do different things. I don't have to. So, yeah, a series is daunting. A series is like, but and that's maybe why even I was so driven to do it, because I was like, I need to prove that I'm a painter. I need to have something to show, you know.
It's good to challenge yourself. Like, that's the reason I did it. And big shout out to Avellino, because he pushed me on that. Like, if it was my own personal show, I may not have gotten it done as quick, you know, because I would have definitely... That's the thing. Sometimes it helps to just have that motivation or that push behind you from outside source, rather than, you know, whether we have a deadline, whether you're working with another artist, and no matter what, like, having that outside push really does help. But in one sense, and then in the other sense, like, I look at the war dance, and there's ideas that I didn't quite get to fulfill for myself with that.
Ooh, tell
series.
me more about that.
Well, it's like I had a really crazy concepts for some of my pieces that, because of the time crunch, I couldn't quite, like, there was just no way.
The way you
wanted
wanted
I was
it.
like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to, you know, build some of these concepts. But like the one with the two guys wrestling, the African guys
with the hat on the side, right?
Yeah. So that one was more of where I wanted to take the series, where there was a lot going on in the background. Even though they were foreground centerpiece, like, the main attention was on them, I wanted to bring culture a lot into those pieces. And some of the other ones I did with simplicity, which I liked, which, like the Peruvian ladies.
Yeah.
That one says everything that it needs to, which is them up front, rather than having too much going on in the back. But, like, some of the other ones, like the boxing one, which I love, it's one of the greatest fights of all time, between Marvin Hagler and Tommy Hearns. But I had different ideas of what I wanted to do with that, but I was in a time crunch, so I was just like, I'm just going to do you know, a nice perspective, but keep it simple. If I would have had my choice, I would have put more elements of the boxing, like, world into it for me personally, just because, you know, I grew up watching boxing. Like, that was a fight that took me back to my childhood, because my brother would always put it on over the years, and my dad loved Marvin Hagler. And so there's different elements that I would have added if I had more time. Same with the portrait of the fighter. That one, to me, more than anything, was the one I rushed the most, just because...
The one of the stages?
The one, yeah.
With, like, the kit, yeah.
Yeah, I would have loved to, like, kind of done more with that. Like, his face, I really wanted to, like, get into the details of, like, each scar told a story, basically. But I couldn't really, get that much detail. So there's things where it's like when you have a time crunch, you end up sacrificing certain things.
True.
And that's the thing with like an art show. It's like unless you have the ability to like work on something for a year or however long it takes for you to really like hash out all your ideas and then execute, if to have the ability to be able to devote that time to something like that, we don't all get, especially being working artists. It's like you get a window, you gotta put it together and do, especially us, we're not only doing the artwork, but then, especially for the war dance, like I went and built the walls, built the tracks, did everything to make sure that it would be presentable.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't only just doing the art show, I was basically being an art curator as well.
Yes.
And a construction guy and just doing it all.
Wearing all the hats.
Yeah, wearing all the hats. So, that all of that takes away from just being able to focus on the art. So it's funny because when I see some of these big name artists and they have like these immaculate pieces, I'm envious like of the fact that they just can take the time. And maybe they're going through the same thing, Maybe that's just us looking in from a different perspective saying, oh, yeah, no, they have all the time in the world. Like, that's why it was cool when I was talking with Nitros at the mural festival that we did. Talking with him, learning that, he's got an art show coming up in this early spring next year, and he's telling me that he needs to do 22 big-ass paintings, in a couple months. So I'm like, okay, so that's why he's where he's at, though.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's good, like you were saying, it's good to challenge yourselves. And also, I mean, that you were doing a show with Avelino, the fastest painter out of all of us.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Fucking, you were able to keep up. Good for you.
Kind of.
Like, I would have. In fact, how we're thinking about. Well, we were talking about how we were gonna do that group thing together at the Art Spark.
Yeah. He was
saying that we should come up with a concept and we all should do 5 paintings, and I'm over here like, okay, that's like easy for you, but how about if you want to do 5 paintings, I was like, each one of us should have our own thing. So it's now all just, you'll have to do, I don't know if I'm making any sense. Yeah,
keep it to one theme. We all have our own thing.
Like, I don't know. I mean, like, you guys, you're all doing octopuses. Great. And then you tell us what we're all doing.
Yeah.
With, I don't know, just so it's, I don't know. Something like that, maybe. Because I was like, 5 paintings of the same concept, all of us?
No way.
That's too, yeah, like, that's a lot.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Like you said, we're all doing octopus. There's going to be a lot of octopuses. No, we'll come up with a general thing.
But yeah, so him being the fastest out of all of us, I'm like, dude.
I totally forgot about that. And thanks for bringing that up. I forgot about that show.
Yeah, we have to come up with something.
Yeah.
And this is the first. So this is the first time I've committed to not the first time I've committed to a series. Because I have like other, like all my sculpture could be considered a series because it's all the same, around the same theme, and all my watercolors look the same. So that could also be considered a series. But maybe that's why I have so many series going on.
Do you like painting in series, or it seems like most of your art, your 2D art, has kind of turned into series.
Yeah, because they're more like studies.
Yeah.
Like right now that I don't feel so super confident, like it's series I think
it helps keeps you keep improving on your technique.
On the technique, yeah. It's more like a study. That's more than anything. I think concepts is the hardest thing to come up with.
Yeah.
When it comes to, especially with 2D, because, like I said, 3D is not a big deal. 2D is, you can make it look so many ways. It's
It really is. Like, just the way you describe it, it really is. You're, like, switching what part of your brain that you're working with. Because, you know, what you're saying makes sense. But at the same time, from my perspective, it's like,
no.
I'm not buying it. Like, I think painting's easier than sculpting. But maybe that's because I don't, you know, I didn't learn sculpting first. Like, even if I get really good at sculpting, I feel like I'll still think painting is easier. It's just where we're coming from.
Yeah, it's got to be something with the brain. When I was in college, my friend Sophie, she was really good at when naked people are in front of you. What is it called? And you paint and you draw them. Life drawing.
Sure.
Yeah.
I never did that.
So she was really good at life drawing, and so I took a class with her, and I was in sculpture, so she took a class with me, and I mean, she failed sculpture. I watched her struggle so hard trying to put together pieces, and it was like, I saw her fail that class, and she saw me cry a lot in life drawing, a lot. Like, it's just, no, I literally had to, like, step out and, like, cry in the hallway out of this, like, just sheer, I
hope you're hearing this, Kristen. when you hear this, C cries too when she draws.
Yeah, oh yeah, those dinosaurs. Yeah, it's not easy. It's just not easy, and for me, so there is definitely a different way of thinking. But
are you enjoying going down, like, challenging yourself in something that like this?
Yeah, like I said, I didn't really. When people are like, "Oh, I wish I could paint," I'm like, dude, I didn't know I could do it until I did it. Like, legit, I did not know I could do this until I did it. And then you're like, well, what else? What else can you do? You know? I don't know.
Well, it's important to say. Like, you know, we all hear it as being artists, you know, especially, like, when we're out at fairs or, like, your art show, whenever you're presenting your work, a lot of people will come up, or just certain people will come up and tell you exactly that. Like, I wish I could do that. I wish. And in a way, they're doing it as a compliment, but it's a weird compliment.
Yeah.
Because it takes away from understanding the amount of work and dedication and just putting yourself in your craft to get to that point. You know, I know this is your first show, but you're an artist. So, like, even though it was your first paintings, you could tell your attention to detail is on a different level than most people who would put on their first art show. Because, you know, you've been a working artist for a long time, and even though it was in a different art form, you still have that eye. And so I could tell that while I got the pleasure to actually watch you paint some of these pieces, and, you know, what made me gravitate towards you immediately was your attention to detail. Like, it reminds me of me in that sense. Like, I really love detail. I really love taking it as detailed as possible. Like, it's not necessarily realism that I'm striving for, but it is about drawing the viewer in. Getting, like, the biggest compliment to me is someone staring at one of my paintings and just being stuck there for a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, like, just really getting sucked into, like, oh, you know, seeing all the details that you can't really notice if you're just, you know, scanning and moving on. And, you know, that's the biggest compliment to me. It's not what people say, it's how they act around my painting.
Yeah.
And, you know, that, to me, is better than anything that anyone could say as far as, like, oh, you're amazing. Oh, like, people complimenting you as a person for your art, to me, has always been weird. Like, I'll take it.
Yeah.
But I'm like, isn't there more you can say? Like, what is it about the art? Why would you call me? what you call me based on my art. Like, that's, we've talked about this when with art. Like, I really believe we're more channelers than the art's coming from something within me. I'd say that's part of my art experience, is that every good idea I've ever gotten has come from some type of outside inspiration, whether that be, dreams to me are outside inspiration, nature, people, other artists. Like, I'll be the first to admit, I learned things from watching other artists, taking not necessarily taking styles, but learning from techniques, learning from, visually how they put their color palette together and stuff. And I think none of us have ownership of any of that. Like, that's why we put our art out there for other people to see, and, hopefully other artists to get inspired by. And to me, I've always felt like art's more of a channeling thing. Like, if you're open to inspiration, you'll get inspired.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to make everything from within, you're not going to find much inspiration. That, at least, is for me.
Mm-hmm.
Other people, may have a lot. Like, I've worked with artists that just, like, one of my mentors, he was blind for 3 months. And he said in those 3 months he had all kinds of visions, and most of his work nowadays comes from probably those visions that he had during that 3-month period of being blind. And so for every artist it's different.
Right. Definitely. Wow, that's a trip.
Yeah.
Like,
imagine being an artist and then going blind. Not knowing if you'll ever get your vision back,
I mean, I see with my hands.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because that is something that, you're going down a path, you feel good about it, you're doing good. We talk a little bit about your sculpture background, but I know what you've told me is, like, it sounded like you were getting to kind of the top of the mountain as far as area.
Oh yeah, I had it all figured out. I had a whole career. I had been working on this since I was super lucky to have all of that, just working in foundries forever. I was climbing the ladder of success. Yeah, and then it all just went downhill a little bit with my health. And
so what exactly happened?
My hands just stopped working. I overdid it. I overdid it at the last foundry I worked at, MSC. I overdid it. I went into overdrive and my hands stopped working. And from that, they just found a bunch of... I've always been a physical person, like laborer. Like in my house, it was like, if you're not working with your body, you're not working. Like, brain work is not real. That's just a scam. Like, hardworking family.
Yeah.
We work hard, and so yeah, I have I had to have neck surgery when I met you guys. And I'm still on the path of recovery from that. I'm, like I said, I still have the neurologist to go to figure out what's going on.
So it was like spinal.
Yeah,
damage?
It's spinal injury, old spinal injury.
Just from working too hard?
Well, I guess the story goes... Sorry, Joey. I guess the story goes that I was in an accident when I was really young, like 6 months old. Like, really young, fresh.
Oh.
And it was a really bad accident in which I guess we got T-boned. And a car accident, yeah. And they tell me, because I don't remember, that my head got stuck under the seat.
Oh, wow.
And so I've had a crooked neck my whole life. And never got taken care of. So, as wear and tear.
No.
When you're crooked, if you're not doing, wear and tear. I basically ended up with a 65-year-old neck.
Yeah.
As far as my bones. the doctors wouldn't take it seriously because I'm too young to have those kind of issues. Too young to have these kind of issues. That's why it's kind of been taking so long. But yeah, I finally get to get. I'm bionic now. I had to get surgery. I had to get one of my discs inside my vertebrae scooped out, and a metal one. Yeah, like a ball and joint type thing. Just kind of cool. Because now, before I couldn't do this. Like, I would drive and I would have to, like, move my whole body. So it was dangerous. Yeah. I shouldn't be doing those things.
That's interesting. You grew up probably just always feeling like this is just how my neck is. Yeah. So you could have been doing damage all those years.
And it's so interesting if you look at photos from when I'm official photos. Every time I would go to, I remember the first time I noticed it was middle school. You get to get photos for your IDs, and they kept telling me to straighten my neck, and I was like, my head is straight, wow. And they would like come and like fix it.
They always do that.
Yeah. So, and it's funny because people be like, you do that thing in photos with your head, and I'm like, no, it's just crooked like that. Like, if I'm able to show you my ID, my head is crooked. In every single photo, my head is crooked. And it still is a little bit. I still have to go to the chiro. You
just got the Cholaline.
I know! People were like, why you? And I'm like, because if I straighten my, like, I'm just all kinds of messed up. But yeah, all those years, just doing damage by being... Mm-hmm. And I was a crazy kid, you know, all the sports, you know, like contact sports, a lot of falls, skateboarding. Like a lot of falls. Like I tell you, very active. Yeah. So.
You never let it limit you.
No.
Until it limited you.
Exactly. Another thing is that you don't realize this, but you develop a high pain tolerance when you live with pain your whole life. Like, I just have chronic pain. And you don't think it's bad. You're like, oh, well, you get used to it almost. It's uncomfortable, but you get used to it. And then it gets to a point where you're like, oh, no, this is bad. I had to learn, actually, every time they're like, from 1 to 10, how bad is your pain? And I actually have, like, a diagram on my thing of the descriptions of each number, because for me I'd be like, well, I imagine that like a 10 is like someone severed your arm and it's bleeding and you really need, like, that's real pain, you know. But no, it's like I'm over here in the 7s, 8s, 9s and being like, oh, today I feel like 3 or 4 maybe, you know, because I don't need to be, but no.
You think about it, that is a really strange thing to ask someone, like, on a level 1 to 10, how's your pain? Like, there's a lot that goes into that. Like.
And then here's the other thing. They ask you over and over and over to describe your pain, because there's different kinds. Is it burning? Is it stabbing? Is it tingling? Is it throbbing? Does it come in, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. Pain. Pain is my friend. Now we go way back. Way back. Yeah.
Lifelong friend. And enemy.
Yeah. I mean, I was gonna say you can find use for things, but I was like, I really haven't.
Well, I think too, though, that like you have, in the sense that part of your character is built from your ability to deal with, you know, the pain that you've had to deal with in your life. You know?
True.
I think character is really built out of all that.
This is why I'm a goof.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
I think so. It's a way, you know, you hear a lot, like, a lot of people deal with humor or with why is my English so fucked today?
It's all right. Because you're on a podcast.
Probably. That's gotta be it. That's gotta be it. I can't talk today. Ugh.
It's fine. We'll get through it.
I wanted to say something earlier when you were talking about when people are looking at your paintings. Sorry, I'm all over the place.
It's fine.
And they're staring at it, and that's how you're like, that's what I like the most. When it comes to painting, I mean, when it comes to anything, literally anything, I always want to know how things are done. And I like when people ask you how you did that. When they can't figure out how you've done it.
Yeah.
That's when I'm like, let me tell you. Yeah. Let me show you. But yeah, it's I'm one of those people that when I go to, I mean, subject matter is important, but when I go to art places, I like to look at, I like to give pieces their individual attention. Mm-hmm. If they catch my attention with the subject matter, but sometimes it's not even, the subject matter could be trash, but you don't know how they done a thing. And I will get like fixated on how they did it. How can I do that? Especially if it looks cool.
Yeah.
And
well, that's almost like where you know it's another creative mind that's looking at it. When you know you're in it, you're in the game, so that's what you're thinking. You're like, ooh, how's that done? Like that to me is just showing like a working mind as far as like your painter or your sculpture. Like you're looking for the process, and I think I appreciate that too. I just never run into that. Hardly ever with showings, you know. Maybe I don't have too many artists checking out my work in person for me personally, like, because most of what I've dealt, and I haven't had many shows either. That's the problem too, but bar and far, what I've heard from people at my shows is just, oh, your work is great, or you know, I'm not really into your work, but it looks good. You know, like that's very generalized and basic, you're making it basic, but overall that's what I tend to deal with work, you know. So like to me, to have that person who just wants to know about the process and stuff, like I've definitely had that, but it's few and far between, and maybe it makes you appreciate that more.
Oh, I mean listen, Linda, I get like you get that a lot with sculpture, and it's so hard to explain that. This sounds awful, but there'll be times when people will be like asking questions, and I'd be like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just because it's not even.
It's not worth going down that.
It's not. It's not. Yeah, it's not. I was just thinking more in oh man, I'm all over the place in my brain. I was just like, is it bad that if I look at something and I know how it's done, I lose complete interest?
No. Like I said, it's your working brain. Like you're obviously intrigued by what you can't figure out.
Right.
Then you want to know. Like that's the sign of you just have a curious mind, you know, and that's what intrigues you.
Okay. Cool.
I don't know if anything's bad unless you're harming someone, you know, like unless you're looking to harm people. I don't think there's anything that's bad. It's just how your mind works. I like that though. What you said, like to me that's intriguing. That's what shows an inquisitive mind and a curious mind. To me, that's what I go to art shows for too, is to be blown away, to be like, wow, how did they do that? And just, yeah, being an artist myself, like when I see work that I know I could do, not to say that I don't think it's good, or, you know, I like when people take a creative touch, or like make something simple just really catch your eye, even though you know it's simple, but it just grabs you. I like stuff like that too. Like simplicity is an art form in and of itself too.
Oh, yeah.
Like if you could just make two colors look, you know, wild, then it's like, okay, there's something to that as well.
Well, yeah, I can't do that.
Yeah.
See?
Sometimes the simplicity is harder to achieve than the super detail.
Yeah, exactly.
But as far as going to an art show myself, what really personally gets me is like, shit, I'm just like, how? How did they do that? Like,
yeah.
how do they make it so clean, or or just like visually just stunning?
Where did that come from?
Yeah, like some artists like literally transport you to another dimension.
Yeah.
Like Alex Gray, his artwork has always been fascinating to me because it's just like the amount of detail, just like it's a drug trip, you know. I could name other artists too, but he's definitely one that stands out. Since I was a kid, I always got fascinated by his work. But yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of art, though. It's like there's always someone who's doing something just groundbreaking, and what fascinates me is that it's not always people who are famous.
Oh.
You know, like some of the best artists I've ever met or known about have been underground, you know, don't really have huge followings. Like some of the artists that I've connected with in my personal life, I think are some of the best artists in the world right now, but no one's ever going to, you know, they're not chasing that. You know, they got their family, they're doing their thing. That part of their life, they're not really, if it happens, it happens, but they don't put the amount of work that's necessary to like really put yourself out there on a world scale, you know. And those are the type of artists that, you know, maybe they will become famous once they're gone, you know, just their work gets out there somehow.
I wonder how that's going to work out in the future, you know, with all I mean, with social media, everyone is out there.
Yeah.
And like you think of the greatest, the ones that everyone knows about, you know, and how a lot of them got famous after death. And I'm like, I wonder how that's going to look in the future with everyone's stuff being out already. And
I wonder how that's going to translate into time as far as being an artist, with things being like there's so much that we can see now through the internet. How long does your reputation last now? Like before, people's reputation as artists could last a long time because let's, you know, like a Picasso, a Van Gogh, like a lot of them, their artwork has lasted because it's tangible. It's put up in museums after a while. Like it's something that it's an experience to go see. But now with everything coming to you in your own phone, like everything's right here in front of you. You don't necessarily have to go to a museum to see your favorite artist's work anymore. It's right in front of you. How long does that last before you're on to the next? Before that next artist gets your attention and then you totally forget about this. That's where I'm curious, like, where are we going from here with this NFT stuff and everything? Like, everything seems to be going digital. Soon it won't even be necessary to have tangible paintings. Or will it? I don't know. It really depends on what people gravitate towards. But as far as what I'm seeing, it's like everyone wants digital, where everything's going to be in this digital world. And for artists, I feel like right now it sounds good because, like, I don't know if necessarily less work, but you can do so much more in the digital world, put everything there. But are we shooting ourselves in the foot when there's no more tangible paintings? There's no more of that. When everything's digital, then, you know, will that make our own relevance less? Because there'll be so many creating. I don't know.
Interesting. Because, like, it's kind of happening right now in the bronze world.
Yeah.
You know, like, nobody's buying bronzes. Nobody's got money. Well, not nobody. People got money. But, you know, like, the general public, we're going through a pandemic. There's no, you know, people are recovering. It's dying. It's dying.
That's interesting. 'Cause I feel like the people who buy bronze, they're not hurt by the pandemic.
Right. Like, just in terms of 3D printing.
See, that's what it is.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, now you can 3D print anything.
Yeah.
Hell, you can skip one of the you can skip the whole mold making part of the process of making a bronze because you can just print it in wax already. Get rid of all that and just make
print your mold.
Yeah, just print your wax already without the mold. Just print your wax, pass it through.
It's crazy.
Yeah, so it's already happening, and the people, like, what was happening in the community was that, well, a lot of artists were not selling anything, and only the ones that were already out there with their names and are still out there, like, they're the ones that are, but a lot of them are, I don't want to say hurting, but it's happened. Like, sculpture, the bronze sculpture is like,
the market
is declining a lot. Yeah. So now with the NFTs, it's true. Like, I mean, and you only have so much space on your walls to hang stuff. Yeah. Also. Mm-hmm. And there's so much art out there that is so cool. If you want to, it all makes sense, but it doesn't. I don't know.
What makes sense?
Like, it makes sense that you would want to, like, with the NFT situation. I look at them as like trading cards, like Pokemon cards or baseball cards or whatever. And I'm like, it's a neat idea. Mm-hmm. But then what? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What's next? Like, what's?
Well, it's all turning into commodity. You know, like, it's just how can people make money off of what you do? Like, it's all, I don't even know if it's money necessarily anymore now. Like, it's just, like, with Bitcoin now, and, like, our whole idea of economics and, like, making a living, it's changing rapidly right now. Yeah. When you see, like, how, labor's changing, people don't want to go to their, jobs anymore, that if they don't like their job, they're quitting, they're trying to find something different. Unions are on the rise again. People want to organize to get better pay, or a variety of things. And not only that, like, with the introduction of Bitcoin and all this, like, just having, it's almost like we're gearing an economy away from our centralized system of banks and middlemen. It all comes down to who do you trust with your transactions, and
nobody.
Yeah, I mean, well, and I think that's what this generation's coming around to. It's like we've seen the banking system fall apart in our lifetime with the 2008, financial crisis. If the government didn't go and print a ton of money and bail out all the banks, like, the banking system would have fallen, like, totally collapsed at that moment. Instead, they needed a government to just basically bail it out. And what did they do with that? They just, got richer.
Yeah, they carried on.
Yeah. And our system's still in place, but it didn't really benefit the working people, the people like you and me or our parents. What really happened was that they got bailed out so that they could continue to, have this system go. But out of all of that chaos, something else was born. And what that was blockchain. And that's where a whole generation of, our generation growing up realized, seeing that, and like, no, we need to find something better. And smart people went and they found something that could be better. We don't know yet. Like, we're still learning about this. Most people still can't quite grasp what blockchain is. Like, I've read a lot about it. I've heard a lot of things about it, and I still, it's still hard to grasp. But I think the more it's around us, the more we're going to understand what it's doing. And to me, the best way I could describe it is blockchain is a way of having transactions done without the middleman. It's like in the old with, like, mafia and stuff, like, how did they keep their books? They all wrote down transactions in a book. This is how much this person pays. This is how much they owe me, this and that. So they always had their, like, black book of of transactions. Well, that's what blockchain is, except it's a black book that everyone in that network has. So everyone knows your transaction history. And you can't manipulate it. It's like Wikipedia. Everyone knows what goes into Wikipedia, when it's updated, how it's updated, everything. If you lie, or if you do something shady, everyone knows about it.
Oh.
So if that's if you're way in, if you're trying to manipulate people, if you're trying to get over on people, it's going to come out eventually. And once it does, everyone knows. So then no one's going to want to do business with you. So it's actually not beneficial
for you
to lie and cheat. And I think that's the whole thing with blockchain they're trying to push is like you can't really cheat it until someone finds a way to cheat it. But at this point, it seems like it's pretty foolproof. Like there's no real way. Someone will always find a way. But at this point,
not there yet.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it can be manipulated that way.
You know this. I struggle with the NFT situation. Like I just don't understand it fully. And
well, there's so many layers to it. Like I'm talking about blockchain now. That's like the base layer of that. Then you go into that. So blockchain is what Bitcoin was built out of. So, but then Bitcoin, you got to learn about that. And once you learn about that, then you can start talking about like these NFTs and so what I'm saying is that it's transforming the economy. Eventually,
and we don't understand.
Eventually we're not. I don't think people are going to be operating the same way that we do now, where it's like you make your money in your job, you put it away in the bank, you get a loan from the bank for your house, your car, whatever.
None of that.
Yeah, that's how. But I mean, that's how the economy runs now. It's like everyone's borrowing money from the banks in some form or fashion, and the banks, give out that money, and that's how they make their money off of the interest of giving out that money. Well, I think that whole system is collapsing because it's not built to last. It's literally built to, take advantage as long as it can. But I think it's coming to an end. So what's going to be built up in its place? And I think with technology, it's like they're going in this digital space, and how that all concerns us as artists is like, where do we get left in all this? To me, I think we'll be fine as far as being tangible artists in our lifetime, because there's going to always be people older than us that want tangible work. Our generation will still, it's nostalgic. There's people that are going to have money and they're going to want art on the walls. They're going to want murals. What I worry about is the next generations coming up. Are we the last generation of like true canvas, paintbrush to canvas artists? Are the next generations just going to be all doing everything on digital pads? Yeah, Procreate. And because for us, there's still a market. But like you're saying, is that market slowly dying?
Yeah.
And once we're gone, like I would love to teach the youth like to paint and all that. But can I honestly, truthfully tell them, look, you can make a career out of this moving forward? That would be kind of just, I don't know, that would be almost not wise to tell younger kid, hey, you should paint.
Oh, yeah. All of my professors in college were like, get your art education because art studio is fun, but it's hard out there. So get your art education. Yeah. And I did. Because everyone's like, yeah, you can be really good out in the world, but it's hard to make it. So, it would be irresponsible to tell kids that they could just. Yeah. I mean, ideally, right?
Yeah,
I'm the idealist in the room. Like, I'd be like, yeah, follow your dreams. Don't let anybody tell you can't, But yeah, it'd be irresponsible. Yeah. Because, things are dying.
Well, I think there will always be
changing.
It's changing exactly.
Not dying.
There will be a market for artists, but I think the way that you become a working artist is drastically changing. You're gonna have to do digital work. You're gonna have to learn to be efficient with Procreate and whatever digital, notepad or drawing pad that you're working with, and just start doing that because everything's so sped up.
Yeah.
People are gonna want NFTs or digital mock-ups of whether it's tattoos, murals, like everybody's gonna want mock-ups, and they're gonna want them quickly.
Yeah.
Because if you're not doing it quick, there's someone else who's doing it, you know.
Yeah, who's actually
doing the digital stuff, you know.
Dude, I'm working on the mock-up for that wall at Peter B's, and I'm like, why? Like, I hear straight up with just my notebook and not transfer paper, but like that see-through paper to like tracing paper. Yeah, tracing paper. And it's kicking my butt. And I'm just like, where is Procreate when I need it? Not that I wouldn't even know how to use that thing, but it's true. I'm like, it's taking me forever to do this one thing that, like, not that I can put it together like that. Which...
Well, I think we're all slaves kind of to the way the times are going. It's like everyone wants things quicker and quicker and quicker. And that's kind of pulling us in that direction rather than, like, if we were doing this just 10, 20 years ago. I think the way to show that you were an artist worth paying for was to show the quality of the mock-up, drawing it, like taking your time, doing, you know, really nice color renderings with color pencil or painting it or whatever you're going to do. That was part of the process, and people knew that I don't know, I'm speaking out of my ass because I didn't live at that time as an artist, but I feel like there was more of, like, patience.
Oh, I mean,
with an artist, or just in general, I think people had a little more of a level of patience because things weren't so quick. Like, everything has to happen right now, immediately. You know, I have people even that I do work for now, and it's like, if I'm doing mock-up for, you know, a mural, tattoo, or whatever, it's like, when are you gonna get it done? Can you get it done? How about now? How about, you know, it's like always like trying to speed you up.
Dude, I so do not work that way.
Yeah.
I so do not work that way. I'm like, I was feeling like, I think I was talking about this the other day. You know, in that show, Mad Men, Don Draper, how he gets paid to think.
I haven't watched.
Oh, well, he gets paid. He's a marketer, so he gets paid to think, this guy. And I was like, man, I think all the time. How great. Someone paid me to think, and now I'm getting paid to think, and I'm like, I have to think real hard, and it has to, and I have such a hard time making artwork that I'm not into, you know? Mm-hmm. Not that I'm not into, but when people are pressuring you and then you're just not into it. You're like, I'm trying to focus.
Yeah.
You're taking me away from that a little bit. Yeah.
That's a good segue, because going back to talking about being a working artist, that's one of the things you have to deal with if you want to be able to make your art work for you. Is that you have to do work for others, which isn't always as inspiring as, like, doing the work that you do for yourself. That's just, you know, your expression. Mm-hmm. I know you're kind of new in the paint game to doing that, but as far as with all your art forms, how have you dealt with that, and how do you manage that?
Ooh.
And I'll talk about how I do mine too, but
it's a love-hate relationship, not gonna lie. I love a good challenge. Yeah. I'm like, come at me. Mm-hmm. Tell me what you got, and let's see what we can do. Let's see what I can do. Mm-hmm. I do love me a challenge. It's good. So I just try to look at them that way. Mm-hmm. And I'm one of those people that if I'm not happy with something, I almost don't want my name on it. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna I'm gonna be like, or try to give the best that I got. It's that's just me. Mm-hmm. I like it. Yeah. It's like I thrive under pressure.
Yeah, you do. I've seen it firsthand.
Yeah, I thrive under pressure, so I feel like I bitch about it a lot. Clearly, I'm over here like, I don't know what to do with this, but it's just part of the process. Yeah. I think, for me, to bitch about it, because I say it out loud, and then it clears the space for ideas to come in.
Okay.
And yeah, it's a challenge, but I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Have you turned down projects because you're just like, I can't do this? Or do you always just try and find a way to make it happen?
I always try to. It's a fault within me.
Yeah.
I am a people pleaser.
Mm-hmm.
Try to be aware of it because not everyone is worth of my pleasing.
Mm-hmm.
But I am a people pleaser, so I will try.
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning. That's something I'm learning.
Yeah.
Because it's important to be able to walk away from things.
Yeah.
Like I said, if you don't have your heart in it, you're just gonna do a half-ass job, then don't do it.
Yeah.
So, I haven't had to. I have explained things to people and they've been like, forget you.
Yeah.
But I haven't had to, like, when it comes to art like artistically, I haven't had to, like, do that yet. Have you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
With tattooing, I imagine.
With that, yeah. With commissions, it's just, I don't know. Maybe it's because I've been doing it for quite some time now that there's almost a sixth sense that starts coming from it. Of just, you get a vibe from someone. So there's a lot of factors to deal with. Like, it's not necessarily just that I'm not inspired by the project. It could be like, I don't really like their idea, but I've learned how to work around that. Like, okay, maybe I can inspire them to, think bigger or start throwing some different ideas at them. See if I could find an angle where it's like it'll be more inspiring to me and not be like, because it's amazing how many people will like send you an image. Can you paint this? And it's like, a digital image of something else, and it's like you could just, if you really want that, you could print that and put it on. It's really
Actually,
easy to do nowadays.
You just reminded me of an instance. This is when I was in Mexico, and my friend, I love her to death. She wanted me to paint a Van Gogh.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have an issue with Van Gogh. I don't have an issue with people painting. But I was like, if that's your favorite painting of all time, you should just, like, get it printed on canvas because you can do that now. Or, like, get a poster of it. Or that's one that I didn't do.
Yeah, okay.
It wasn't like, I don't do that. It was just, I was like, I don't think I think I ran out of time because I got the COVID, but I was just not into it. I was like, because you can just do that. I don't know.
Well, talking about that, I want to bring this up.
Yeah.
Should I finish my thought? No, I'll bring this up and then I'll go back to my thought. But I was working with that muralist in Vallejo, Ian. Shout out to Ian. He made his living starting off as a painter for another quotations artist, talking about being paid to think.
Right.
The guy just had ideas, and then he hired painters to paint his ideas. And Ian was one of the guys that, he hired, and he painted a lot of this guys. This guy would have art shows and pretend like he was painting them with an airbrush that didn't have any air coming through. It was like he was a total fake artist, but he had ideas that he could explain to another artist and let the real artist, paint it, but he took all the credit. It was just fascinating to me that, wow, that's a thing? Like, people can do that?
Yeah, I remember you told me about that, and I was like, yeah, I mean, once you get big enough,
But that's the thing, the guy never painted. I understand, like, if you're a great painter and you get to a level where you can't handle it all, okay, I get that. But this dude never painted a day in his life.
Fucking A.
It's like, he just, I mean, that's where marketing took over the world. Like, if you could sell yourself, you could really do anything. You just got to be willing to get enough people to say, yeah, okay, I'll go with that.
Okay, so now, that is sketchy because it's one thing to credit the people that do the paintings for you. But I'm assuming he wasn't if he was pretending to do it himself, which that's just scamming 101 right there.
It is. Like, that's how I looked at it. But then I look at it from this artist that I know now. he made his living
that way
off of that. Like, he was able to carve out a living for himself and finally get his own artwork. Now he don't have to do that anymore, thankfully. He's an accomplished muralist artist in his own right. But that's how he kind of just got work while he was trying to put himself out there. And, you know, I'm sure he has issues. Like, he definitely sounded like he had issues with it. But at the same time, he was thankful for it because it gave him a living when he was trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, it is very scammy in my opinion. But it also, in a way, helped him, you know, to get where he needed to. So I can't say that it was terrible for him to, you know, do that. And it's funny, he was telling me that he put Easter eggs in all the paintings, so if it ever did come down to him having to prove that he painted it,
yeah, that's smart. Smart.
He'll be able to. But
yeah, I was like, we're gonna finish your other thought though.
My other thought, damn, it was shit.
Well, we can get back to it. You mentioned you were like this fake artist. Okay, so how do you feel about those people? There's are like Instagram artists who do a lot of like performative art, like huge canvases and just like throwing paint on them. How do you feel about those guys?
I'm curious if they're even real. What's hard to me is like there's so much video editing going on now that. Like, some of these guys, it just doesn't seem plausible. Like, I don't want to shout any names, but I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. But there's certain artists that I follow that, like, they paint it upside down and they paint with, like, just random stuff. And it just seems so implausible the way that they're painting. I'm like...
And so quick.
Yeah, and it's all time-lapse.
Yeah.
And I know, having edited time-lapse a bunch myself, it's really easy to make that look... look seamless, but you can edit. Chip wants to get in on this interview.
I forgot he was here.
So that I have a hard time with. Like, if I saw it like, I've seen guys that do stuff in person, and yeah, that's impressive. Like, I've seen a guy paint something upside down in person, and it was pretty cool because you had no idea what the portrait was. All right, Chip.
Yeah.
But when I see it on the
online, social media,
on the gram, I'm not convinced. You know, especially when they're doing a bunch of them, and it's just like
hashtag fake art.
Yeah, like I'm a bit skeptical, but everything's about content right now. So it's like if you could just drive a bunch of content,
right,
as an artist, like that's. I hate to say it, but that's the way to make it on the digital world. It's like you got to just keep putting a bunch of different content out there.
Man, we're never going to make it if we don't get on this TikTok game then.
Shit. Fine. I mean, here's the other thing, too, that we should discuss. What does it mean to make it as an artist?
Ooh, okay. Yeah. All right. That's a good one.
Yeah.
What do you think?
To me, it's about having really well-defined goals for yourself and staying true to that. And I gotta admit, I was listening to a podcast yesterday with Jewel. Yeah, you remember Jewel?
Jewel.
She was a folk singer and really big in the early 2000s.
Her song just started... I'm trying to remember the song in my head right now.
Yeah, she's got some really big, good... Like, she was huge there for a second.
I was like, I haven't heard that name in so long. Are we talking about the same Jewel?
Jewel.
Yeah.
She did a podcast with Joe Rogan, actually, yesterday. Fascinating story. Fascinating. Like, I totally forgot about her. Have a ton of respect for her after listening to her story and just seeing everything, how she's approached everything. But one thing that I took away from it was she was describing when she was getting known, she was starting to get a lot of record companies coming to talk to her. And one of the things that, like, she was homeless at this point. Like, she has a crazy story. I highly recommend everyone who's listening, go listen to that. Like, I know how not everyone loves Joe Rogan. Watch it. He hardly talks in this episode, which is, it's good because she's got quite a story to tell. But she was homeless, singing out of a coffee shop, and she was getting a lot of the local community was pushing her, and then finally she got some traction, and some record executives started, showing up, just flying out to check her out. She started getting some attention, and then they started offering her some to sign with their record labels. But one thing she said was that she had made a pact with herself because she had gone through so much trauma, so much. She learned to live with hardly anything, so she didn't need a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So she told herself, I don't want to get into this to make money. It's not about money to me. I want to be the best songwriter ever.
Oh,
it's about being the best songwriter ever. It's not about being famous. It's not about making a bunch of money. So when she was signing her records, she had that in her head. Like, I got to do what's best for me to be the best songwriter and singer ever. So to do that, she knew she needed time. What happens with a lot of artists when they're coming up is a lot of record labels offer them advances to start, to sign. They call them like signing bonuses and stuff like that, but it's not free money. All that they get back in the back end when you sell records, all that money from the records goes to the studio. So they entice artists by like saying, here, I'm going to pay you, $1.5 million to sign, and it's up front. So you got the money, but they take all the back end. So if you do well, they get all your sales. Well, Jules may be one of the first artists ever she declined all the money up front.
Oh,
and she said no. And she said she had probably the best ever back end deal in history with some of these record labels, because she said, I don't want any money up front. I just want to make sure that I'll be able to keep putting work out there when there's, even if I'm not selling records. She said that was the smartest move she ever did because her first record didn't do well. So she said if I hadn't done that, I would have been dropped from the label, and that would have been it.
Oh.
But because, she said she was going out and doing her tours solo. She would drive herself. She didn't ask anything from the record company. She would be touring. She was touring with the Ramones for across the country for a while. And she would just do everything herself. And so she made it so impossible for them to drop her from the label because she was cheap. Like, she wasn't, they weren't.
Yeah, they weren't.
Joe made a joke on it. He's like, yeah, they would have meetings at the executive meetings, and they'd be like, they were dropping, artists left and right because they weren't. But when they came to Jewel, it'd be like, well, she's costing us $12 a month. Like, why are we going to drop her?
Yeah, we can keep her.
But that ended up being super smart for her because she was able to continue to produce and refine her work, and then eventually one of her songs, became a huge hit. And
still thinking about the song.
Yeah, after that, I know she played it too. She played it live at the end of the podcast too, which was really cool.
Checking it out for sure.
Yeah, but she ended up, breaking through, ended up getting a huge chunk of her back end. So she ended up being set basically for life. Then she went down another wormhole, but I'll let you listen to that podcast because that girl's been through a lot. But getting back to the initial question, to me, it's like really knowing what you're in it for. For me, it's always been to put my artwork out there for community. So to me, being a successful artist, in my opinion, is being well known in my community. Knowing that like something just personal to me is going into all my family members, all my loved ones, my friends. By the end of my life, being able to walk into their houses and see my artwork on their walls. Like, that's why I always say, like, when I walked in, it's a small thing, but for me to see my artwork on your wall, those are the things that touch me and make me feel accomplished. Make me feel like, oh, my life is having an effect.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what it is that's made it that so important to me, but to me, what's important is having an effect on the people closest to me, because to me, it's community that helps us survive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm like you, where I've always not always needed, but I've always been extended a helping hand by the people in my community when
Mm-hmm.
I've needed it. You know, I've had people there to pick me up when I've fallen.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I understand how important that is, because I know people who don't have that.
Yeah.
I've met people who don't have community around them, and to me, that's hell. Like, when you're just out in the world alone and there's no one there who even cares, like, you could die and no one would even know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I have to say, like, I've met people and befriended people based on that premise, because I knew no one else cared about them.
Yeah.
And
do that too.
so to me, that's what making it as an artist is. So in a way, I feel like I've already made it.
Mm-hmm.
But now, how to continue to push myself and motivate myself. Now it's about my community, hanging out with other artists, pushing each other, like learning how to get better through each other's drive, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like working with the La Neta mural teams. Like, to me, there's a drive in me now to get bigger projects, because I know it's not only helping me, it's going to help all of us.
The rest of us, yeah.
You know, like, to me, the biggest motivating factor for me is if I can help others elevate their game and get to a better position, then that makes me feel good.
Yeah.
You know? So to me, that's number one for
Mm-hmm. Success.
For success, is having a strong community around me based through my artwork.
Mm-hmm.
And then two, like, is just being able to, like, right now, before the past couple months, because I've been having some issues with, you know, car issues and
that
things
car.
like that. Yeah. Up until that, being able to get through every month paying my bills,
Mm-hmm.
like, probably the last year has been the first time in my life where I've, like, had some breathing room, where I'm like, oh shit, I got my bills paid for the next couple months. I can actually start, you know, paying off debt.
Mm-hmm. Get
Like,
ahead.
Yeah, that was like a breath of fresh air for me. Like, holy shit, like, I'm getting ahead. I'm
Mm-hmm.
making moves. So to me, having the financial burden of, like, bills, like, getting that off my back, I think will be the next step for me, as far as if I have to put, like, a tangible success towards money.
Mm-hmm.
That's success to me, is not having to worry about paying my bills. Anything past that is just icing on the cake for me.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't need millions. I don't.
Right. Although we are in between millions.
We are in between. But one thing I will say is fame is something I don't chase at all. Vehemently do not chase. Like, I don't want it. I don't like it.
Isn't that like the for me, that's like the disconnect there, because when I think about, like, a successful artist, I think of people who, or what it means in my brain. I'm like, someone who's a successful artist is who's doing the work they're here to do, whatever work that is, and they're not compromising it for me. Like that story with Jo, I'm like, she's a successful artist because she didn't compromise her her artistic integrity for the money, or, you know, and as I feel that I'm in the same boat in the sense of I've always gotten by with a little help from my friends, and so money hasn't been like a thing that I chase. Fame is not a thing that you chase. I mean, I cannot imagine, like, even just coming on a podcast and expressing your opinions, it's like, a little bit, you know? Can you imagine fame? Like, that is just scary as hell. at the same time, we were having this kind of like, how does how does I don't know. I guess it's possible to just be the community's artist, and the community just helps you out, and that's that. You know, like the whole not being.
So what you're saying is how do you get recognized if you're not somehow?
Well, like the
famous?
rich and famous or whatever.
It's not something that they strive for. It just kind of happens.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know that that's true, but I'm just like, how does that? Because I know who Jewel is.
Mm-hmm.
I saw her on MTV.
Yeah.
You know, back in the day, and then she fell off the face of earth. It felt like, but
Yeah.
she's doing great. Good for you, girl.
Well, that was one thing that she said. Like, again, going back to what she said, like.
Mhm.
She wasn't chasing fame. She wasn't chasing more money. So after she got famous, made a ton of money, she wasn't feeling it the same way again.
Mm-hmm.
So she walked away from it all. She's like, well, I'm not in it. So
I'm
she
out.
just kind of walked away and is just in her doing her own thing, doing her songwriting. And now she's starting to come back, and she's just like, I'm doing it on my time because I don't need to chase anything.
Yeah.
And it's like and you notice that when people, I mean, like I said, she's got an incredible story. When you see people who've been through that much shit and have defined themselves within themselves in a way where it's like no outside influence can really fuck with them.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what I aspire to. Like, to get to a point where it's like, that's what I'm going to define success as, where I'm no longer affected by outside influence in making my decisions with my art.
Right. Artistic integrity. Keeping your artistic integrity.
That means you're making the money that you need to off your money or off your art so that you can take care of your own life, the people that depend on you.
Mm-hmm.
2, you don't need to take the jobs just because it's good money. You know, like, you're going to do the jobs that you want to do because it moves you.
Yeah, 100%.
And then, you know, you get to walk away on your terms. You get to do things on your terms. Like, to get there, though, sometimes you do need to. And that's what's so fascinating. Like, even though, like, with Jewel, she was able to walk away from that one, she had to do other things to get there, you know, to get to that point. Like, you have to make sacrifices here and there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you got to leave your ego out of it. You know, sometimes we got to do jobs that we don't want to.
Oh, yeah.
That are humbling and that, you know, make you feel like, what the fuck am I doing?
Do you want to see my list of odd jobs?
That's what I want to talk about. Yeah, to segue into the next part, that's what I really want to talk about. Like, because a lot of people think being a working artist means you just have to put your head down and just do your art and, you know, fuck everything else. You know, be a poor working artist. But, you know, there's a variety of ways to tackle it. And one way that I know you've talked about is that you had to take a lot of jobs over the years, you know, just to make ends meet.
Oh, yeah.
And let's talk a little bit about that. How do you balance, you know, still chasing your passion, but also, you know, taking on these odd jobs just to be able to make ends meet?
Well, it's been a minute. Thank the universe. Wow, there's a party going on
outside.
outside.
We got a party in
Woo-hoo.
there.
Yeah,
Sorry if that audio comes
I know, I'm like plugged in now. I want to know. It's the hardest part about that was having. The hardest part was having. I mean, I had a lot of jobs within the arts, which was great.
Mm-hmm.
It was it was awesome. It was a lot of learning. It was a lot of. But the thing that kind of sucked about it was that you're using all your creativity and all your energy into some other people's artwork.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go home and you have nothing for yourself.
No.
Taking the odd jobs, I mean, at some of the odd, like when I was when I was an accountant for a dentist firm,
Accountant for a dentist firm.
I would have to be on the phone a lot. Mm-hmm. So I have a sketchbook from that era. Mm. And I'm not a drawer really, but I'd be doing things there, you know. Mm-hmm. I will still have the creativity flowing through, mm-hmm. as opposed to using all my creative energy to work on somebody else's pieces. That was really soul crushing at some points. But also, when you're working with numbers at a dental office, that's just hell. So it's hard. Yeah. It's hard, but you gotta do what you gotta do, you know, every once in a while. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that gave me the chills. Yeah. Going back to, I told you that story of how I had to walk out of that place. I used to I had to always wear suits. And I once walked out in my lunch, went straight next door to get a tattoo because I needed to feel something because I was like losing my mind in there. But it's just something that you have to do, I guess. I don't know. I'm not afraid of I'm a little bit afraid of physical labor now. Yeah. I can't do things like I used to before. But before then, I was just fearless, dude. Yeah. I've done whatever I needed to get done to survive, to make it. I'm a hustler in that sense.
Well, because you grew up in Mexico, and then you came out here with just your cousin.
Yeah, well, my cousin and I came and we stayed with an aunt, and then we both graduated. She went back to Mexico, and I went off into the world.
From then on.
And from then on, yeah, it's been me, myself, and Chip eventually. But, yeah, since I walked out of their house, I've always had odd jobs. Yeah. Yeah, I always made it on my own, however I can. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I don't know. I forgot the question.
Balancing art.
Oh, balancing art. It's hard. It's hard. You don't get to do it as much. Yeah. You don't get to do it as much because your energy is spent somewhere else. This last year was probably my most prolific year making art. I can't believe how much artwork I made in 1 year. Mm-hmm. Not just paintings, but sculptures too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and yeah, it's. I keep thinking like, wow, if you could really do that, you know, just keep making artwork. Maybe you won't have to go back to odd jobs again. Yeah. No, it definitely is. If you're getting I think that a lot of creatives who have jobs on the side could probably say the same.
Yeah. To me, it's like I've done a few odd jobs. Mm-hmm. Like I've had security jobs. I worked at a cannabis dispensary. Since I've been working as an artist, it's probably the only two significant ones that I can think of. But to me, I think what really changed for me, because I've always had that battle going on in my head, like pay your bills, just have enough money to be able to pay your bills. But when I think like that, it makes me think that my art isn't worthy of anything. Because the way I look at it, if I put my energy into a job, like you said, you don't have as much time for your art. To me, that's giving up on my art in the sense that and it just comes down to me, I don't think that I can make $20 an hour doing my artwork.
I see.
You know, and like, so I had to switch something in my brain, realizing, wait, can you put enough work into your art that it'll make you that, you know, $160 an hour, you know, take taxes out, you're making $120 an hour, or $120 a day, you know, at a doing a 8-hour shift at a security or whatever. if I can't make $120 out of 8 hours of work on my art with my art, then yeah, I shouldn't do my art.
Right.
And that's what started motivating me to think differently about my art and to stop thinking, oh, I need to make that $120 a day to pay my bills. I started thinking, no, I need to put that $120 worth of effort into my artwork to make sure that it gets out there. So I started thinking about my artwork not as just my fun hobby art, but I started thinking about how do I make this my job? You got to start doing the things to promote yourself. You got to start doing the things to make merchandise, to get out there and be in fairs, to talk to people, to study other artists, to like it became this process of like, how do I make that $120 a day that I can pay my bills and live off of with this job that I don't like? How do I make my art make that? And it was amazing. As I started doing that, it started making a snowball effect of, oh, wow. Just talking to a couple people, all of a sudden I just sold something for $200. Now I made $200 in a day. And now I met these people who they're talking to people now. And next week I make another commission. Okay, it's not money right away, but now, they drop $100 deposit. Now, I made $300 in 2 days. And it doesn't have to be back-to-back days, Like, I started learning, like, stop thinking in terms of what am I making, daily income, and start thinking of how many projects am I putting out there? How many people am I affecting? How can I make a piece that I've already done, a painting, that, okay, I'm not selling it, I can turn it into a print, I could turn it into a shirt, I can, I could send it out to a show and just, get it looked at here. I can just started thinking how many different ways I can make use of what I already had. And I just started putting it on websites, so like, as I started to learn what works, what doesn't work, what I came to realize is that having multiple revenue streams coming in is what makes it work.
Yeah.
Like, not trying to just make it as a painter, which is how I really started. Then I got into tattooing. I started doing all this other stuff to try and make it work. And it took time, but eventually got to the point where it's like, now I know my art's making me a living. It doesn't come at the, having that check every week. It doesn't work like that. But I do know, like, I don't have that stress anymore. Even like now, I got a lot stacked up on me right now. Even now,
you're cool as a cucumber.
I know, yeah. I know that I got projects lined up. Money's going to come in. So I don't have that stress that I used to have of like, shit, I don't know where that next, like, I have a painting, but I don't know if it's going to sell.
You gotta trust. You just
so
gotta trust.
Now I got to paint something else and hope that someone will like that. Like, it was always about what am I going to do today to make something tomorrow, where I don't have that anymore. I have stuff behind me now. Like, okay, I just need to push this. Like, right now I got a raffle going on. I don't know if it's gonna make me any money, but it's at least putting my name out there. It's a collaboration with Johnny, so it's gonna help Johnny, and it's just like putting something out there so that people know, hey, there's a working artist.
Yeah,
that all goes a long way, and so I started recognizing that it is a job, but you got to put that effort into it to be able to make it your living.
I feel like I'm learning that right now from you, because we've been working together a lot, and by working I mean we're just here and we are around each other a lot, and I'm picking a lot from you. Hope you know that. Learning, like, you were showing me like the ins and outs of how this really works, but this is new to me because my artwork has always been very selfish. I've always considered it to be selfish. It's all very self-fulfilling. It's all, look at my sculptures. Yeah. They're so dramatic. Like, it's just, and in that sense, I had never. I definitely had that mentality of, I'm not an artist for sale, because my artwork is very selfish. Not a lot of people can relate to it. Only the few whatevers that are like, oh, this is, like, I still have a lot of my sculptures. You know, it's not like a thing that, like you were saying, like, oh, you hope someone likes it and buys it. Now, with learning all these other mediums and actually trying to, it's all like I'm learning this. I'm like, huh, and I watch you, dude. Like, I like, yeah, with this paint, this Medusa thing, I was like, interesting, because it's different, but it's new. It's all very new. But it's exciting. It's exciting. I fucking like, I really like learning things. I like academia a lot for that reason, but it's just the learning of new things like this. It's freaking exciting in a way. Because if I like I said, I'm a hustler. If I can hustle to make, I know I'm gonna be okay in the back of my head, because I've always been okay. It's fine. Everything is fine. But it's that voice that I haven't been able to quiet down yet, because I'm so new to this. That voice that you're talking about, the whole like, oh, I don't know what I'm gonna. But you have all this behind you.
Yeah.
It's exciting. It's exhausting also. Let me just fucking say that. It's exhausting. Like, as someone who, I mean, yeah, I'm a goof and I'm very lively and I seem fine, but I do require a lot of alone time. Yeah. And as someone who requires a lot of alone time sometimes, to be putting yourself out there constantly and stuff, I mean, it can be exhausting. Like, this life is not, it's not for everyone, but it's an exciting life, honestly.
Yeah. It's not for the faint of heart.
It's not for the faint of heart. And just like Drew, I feel like I don't have much I don't require much from life. Yeah. It's just me and my creatures. Where did the creature go?
He's behind you.
Oh. It's just me and the creatures, really. So
yeah.
I don't require much.
Well, I think that's the recipe to success in a creative endeavor. It's like, you got to be able to operate on the bare minimum.
Yes.
And for a while. Like, you got to be able to endure that, and a lot of people can't. And I think that's one thing that I come to learn about myself, because I had a lot of pressure, especially the first few years, trying to chase my art dreams. So I had a lot of pressure from, people close to me, telling me, just go do something, make your money somewhere else, then you can always come back to this. Like, people very close to me, my own parents and my, like, family, friends, like, people who saw, like,
girlfriends.
Yeah. I mean, it was a lot of pressure to, like, do something, like, especially when you're going through it. You feel like you're not doing anything with your life. Like, I felt I got so much pressure, so much so that it made me feel like I was chasing this childish dream, like, to do what I want, and that as long as I kept doing this, I wasn't growing. I was feeling that, and it took a lot of internal fortitude to be able to just, I didn't know why, I couldn't do anything else. And I remember distinctly having
you just have to do it.
Yeah, I had that distinct conversation with my mom where I was just like, look, Mom, I just need to do this. Like, I can't see myself doing this part-time. Like, this is full-time for me. And I know I won't end up on the streets, because I got people who care about me and wouldn't let that happen. But if I had to, I would do that for this, because that's how much it means to me. And I think once she started seeing, like, my resolve, and, like, that conversation ended, and it started turning to, like, what can I do to help? And I'm not going to lie, this past, I don't even know, it was 2 weeks ago now. when I went up to the Bay Area,
Yeah.
it kind of just worked out. Like, my dad's in Texas, so all my other family was out of town. So it was really just my mom and Kristen's mom that showed up, to that mural unveiling. And like they had written an article up on me in my hometown newspaper.
You're a local star now.
Well, like, all of that was very. I felt like, and I'm glad it happened when it did, because it was right before my mom's birthday. It was almost like for my mom to show, like, she was so proud and like just so happy that day. And I could tell, like, it was a long journey from when I was starting and she was, like, constantly pushing me to get a job, do something else. For it to go from that to that, where she's, like, gloating over me, seeing her son in the paper, having all these, like, it was a room full of people all there for me. Like, to me, I was just like, what the, like I was saying, like, I don't want any of that. Like, it was
Get
awkward.
Used to it.
It was weird. But I was just looking at my mom, and I was just like, this is her dream. Like, this is what she wants. Like, I may never make millions off. We're in between millions, but in my head, I may never do that.
Yeah.
But if I can make the people around me proud, knowing what I've been through to get where I am just now, like, that's what it's all about for me.
Yeah. How cool.
Yeah, so it's all about that journey. And I think choosing your own path is probably the biggest thing I've gained from this, is learning to choose my own path and not be afraid to stick to my guns on that. Like, I made a conscious decision, like, I'm going to chase my art. And I can say honestly, since I graduated college, I've taken some odd jobs here and there, like everyone. But outside of that, I have stuck to my path. And, for all those young artists out there who are, like, struggling, don't know if they can make it, don't define what makes you based on money, based on fame, based on any of that. Just know what you're doing with your art. Even if you don't know what you're doing with your art, know how it makes you feel. And if that's something you want to do for your rest of your life, then keep going,
Yeah.
There's no right path to any of this. Like, that's something me and you discuss a lot. Like, there's no right or wrong way in this. But there is a path forward. You just have to create it yourself. And that's what makes it such a challenging path in life. Is
like, gotta whack through everything in front of you. I have a question. And I don't know how we're on time, but I have a question. Holy smokes. Yeah, I just have a question. Do you ever feel like your potential? Do you feel your potential?
No.
No?
I think, I know my potential at this moment, but I don't know what my potential is a year from now.
Oh, okay.
2 years from now.
Do you ever care that other people see your potential and that you won't live up to it?
No. I think I've gotten to a point, or a point in my life where any outside ideas of who I am do me no service.
Right.
So I kind of just don't care anymore. Like, I care if my actions are being perceived as doing harm to others, then I want to know about that. But as far as, like, my potential, like, that has to come from within. Like,
yeah.
I don't care if, like, someone thinks that I'm not living up to that, or that they can tell I could do something more. Like, it's my path. It's my journey.
You don't tell me what to do.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you have to do crappy work in order to realize that it's crappy
It's crappy work. Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
So like, there's never a drop off, in my opinion. Like, it's a journey. So like, sometimes you gotta fall to pick yourself back up, type deal. So
Word.
yeah, no, I really, because honestly, I've been a person that takes a lot out of what other people think about me for a long time in my life. To now, I'm getting to the point where I've learned that I can't worry about that anymore. In the past couple years, I think since moving down to Monterey, like, I really had to grow in a different way, in the sense that, you know, I pushed myself into new communities quite a few times in my life, but this was like the first time where I really just like, all right, clean slate, fresh start, with a mature mind. And I learned a lot about myself through this move, because, you know, I had to jump in with people I wasn't familiar with, take a chance, coming here to the shop, you know, putting money that I didn't have up for a studio to say, okay, I'm going to do this.
It's okay, you'll get your back end of the deal later.
I didn't work in the back end. But no,
first mistake. Kidding. Okay, cool. I just, sometimes it's just scary when people feeling, because I do feel that. Sometimes I feel that people see things that I'm. Yes! Get by with a little help from my friends. But yeah, sometimes there is that in my head, just like, what are these people seeing, or what are the ideas of that they have that and well, I guess, I mean, I don't really care what people think. Truly, I don't. But I do wonder sometimes, like, what is it that they're tripping on?
Yeah.
When they talk about potentials and stuff like that. So I'm like, how do you deal with that? Okay, cool. That was my question.
Well, I'm curious about that for you too, because I do know you, coming from your art education background, and some of the people you've dealt with in sculpting. Like, I've seen that, like, criticism is something that you deal with quite a bit.
Yeah.
So how does, same question to you, you know, how does that affect you?
It just adds fuel to the fire. Like, challenge accepted.
Yeah.
Fucking show you. Like, but that's just my, that's the way I've been since I was a kid. Like, all odds were against me, and I'm just over here like, we're gonna cut through this.
Yeah.
Into the thick of it. You know, just with your machete just chomping away. Yeah, to me, I'm just like, I'll show you. And I'm trying to get out of that mentality, because who cares, really? But it does fuel me when, and it's not, I'm not looking for approval, because I know my worth in that sense. Like, we were like, Chris was having that conversation with us in the back. He's like, it might sound weird saying this, and I'm like, no, I feel you. Like, when you know your worth, like, it's just fuel of the fire. I'm like, I'm gonna use this for me.
Yeah.
You know, like, this, I'm not, the negativity can stay out. Like, I could very easily just be like, oh, you know, and don't get me wrong, sometimes it's just like, are they right? But for the most part, it's just like, come at me.
Yeah.
I'll show you. I won't even have to explain myself. That's the beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I know that at the end of it, I won't even have to explain myself.
Mm-hmm.
It'll just be there. There'll be nothing left to say. Wow. Talk about. Yeah, no. Woo. All right. I'm like, it's 2 hours.
All right.
Damn. Time flies by.
I know. Well, we can obviously keep going.
Yeah, we'll continue this on another episode.
I hope you all enjoy just this kind of unfiltered dialogue between me and C. This is what we just do in our art studios on a day-to-day basis.
We are very interesting people.
Is he playing Jewel?
Oh my God.
Joey's doing our soundtrack back here. Yeah, definitely. If you've been listening, I highly recommend going and listening to that podcast with Jewel on the Joe Rogan Experience. What else can I promote right now? I got a raffle going on right now.
Yes.
With Johnny Wicks. It'll end Sunday, so anyone who likes the horror icon series, I did a lot of the slasher movie killers, Jason, Michael Myers, Chucky, Candyman, Pennywise, did them all, and wood burnings. But I have 3 available in this raffle: Chucky and Annabelle, Michael Myers, and then the latest edition is Candyman. You'll get to choose between one of those, and you'll get the full set, 6 candles from Johnny.
With their own scents.
They all got new scents. If you got them last year, these are all completely new scents. And
this is $10 a ticket for over $300 worth of artwork?
Yeah,
that's what I hear.
We are giving away a lot for this one. So
yeah,
definitely, if you haven't gotten a ticket, just get a ticket. Help us out, and hopefully you can win.
Yeah, do it.
Shout out to Guido's Tacos.
Shout out to them.
Shout out to who? Is that Joe?
Guido's Tacos.
Shout out to Guido's Tacos. Yeah, they're gonna be doing some things with Locally Lit. So
you got that thing on November what? 5th?
November 5th. Yeah, I'll be doing the paint parties booth with at the night market at the art park on November 5th. I will be leading the. You can come paint with me.
Yeah.
We'll have all paint supplies there ready for you. I think it'll be like $10 to paint. So come hang out, come paint. Johnny will be there too. If you bring your own container, I don't think any bigger than like 8 ounces or something, you can pour into your
you can make your own candle
and make your own candle.
Just make sure it's not plastic. Stick to aluminum or glass. And Intuition is the song by Jewel that I remember. Like back, it was like pop. It was like up there with like all the pop, like Jessica Simpson, Britney, like all these, you know. And then she faded, but that's why I know her, because Intuition. Shout out to Chip.
Shout out to Chip.
There'll be Prince of Hip coming up soon at the shop. If that one, isn't it? Joey, shout out to Joey, our DJ.
What do you want to say, Chip? Don't lick me.
Yeah.
He's licking the microphone for you guys.
Sorry. You remember this song? Isn't it so different from everything else?
Yeah. Yeah, she did a few pop, and I think that's...
Is that the one that flopped?
I'm pretty sure that what didn't do as well for... listen to
Just
the podcast.
Listen to it.
Tell everything about it. It's a good podcast.
Cool. This is a good podcast too.
Yeah, if you guys like this, let us know. We'll do more of these.
Yeah.
But we're gonna get a guest in here again soon. Hopefully, T's got his show coming up. Don't forget about that.
Oh yeah, we need to get him in.
November. Shoot, I always forget the actual days. I think it's the 13th, 14th, and 15th. I could be wrong. Let me check the calendar real quick.
I think so.
Yes. 12th, 13th, and 14th.
Cool.
T. Anderson, The Color Experience.
Yes, you don't want to miss it out.
Tickets are still available, so go to the shopmonterey.com to get your tickets. And then, what else do we got going on? That's about it for now.
Yeah.
Look out for new work from C and myself. We're like I said, we're working artists, so we're always doing things to create. Yeah,
the holidays are coming.
Yes. With the holidays coming, support local arts.
Support local artists.
It's a big time for artists to be able to, finish off the year strong. So if you're looking for commissions, unique gifts, I mean, we do it all.
Yeah. We have it all at the shop. Come down.
She's painted jackets.
Oh, yeah, that too. I got to get on that.
Yeah.
I got to get on that.
We can do merchandise of all sorts. So
yes.
I'm painting shoes actually coming up.
Ooh.
Got a few commissions coming up, but yeah, if you guys want some unique work,
Hit us up.
Come down to the shop. Trading Post is open Wednesday through Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Thank you for listening. And we'll catch you in the next one.
Peace.
Bye.